What's up, everybody? Here we are, another episode of the Seattle Living and Wealth Building Podcast. Hope you're doing well out there. We got our usual suspects, two superstar realtors here in the Seattle area, Justin Day and Michael Dapper.
What's up, everybody?
I'm Maynard Wagner, team leader of the Wagner Real Estate Group at RE/MAX Northwest here in Seattle. And what we love to talk about is everything that's going on in the market, educate you guys, keep you informed on what's happening, share some stories that could be relevant to you, and talk about Seattle living and wealth building.
It's what we love.
Sound like a plan, guys?
Perfect.
Okay. Well, how you guys doing? What's going on?
Well, I'm doing great. We were talking about this earlier. Seattle in the summertime is awesome. And I know we've all been doing a lot of fun things with family, friends, outdoor activities. So, it's a good time to kind of live life in Seattle. And, the market is typically a little bit slower paced in the summertime. So it gives everybody a chance to enjoy. So it's been great.
Wonderful. How about you, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, to echo Michael's point, there's nothing better than the Seattle summers. I mean, people talk about the rain and how tough it is here in Seattle. And I mean, I can't ask for a better place in the world to live than in Seattle in the summertime. So
yeah, it's been absolutely spectacular. Mm-hmm. Like most recently, we had Seafair weekend, Blue Angels, F-35s, hydroplanes.
Biplanes, stunt planes.
Yeah.
And some of us got to spend time on boats,
yes,
like you guys, and other guys like me did not, but that's fine.
Yeah. Well, you're married to a golf ball.
That's true.
So
I didn't know that was her name.
Yeah. So you have your version of fun, but yeah, it was a great weekend on the water. That's for sure.
Totally.
Well, what's happened in real estate?
Well, recently, I think, we've been able to get buyers into contract with kind of reasonable expectations around price. So it's not quite as complex or as aggressive as it was before. I take that back. There are some more complexities that could benefit a buyer. Like we can do inspections now. We can take some time. Closings are a little bit more flexible as far as the timeline. So it's been a pleasure to be able to use some of those nuances in a different way on the buy side. And then on the selling side, homes are still selling. So it all depends on, what you've got, how you've marketed it, and then, managing the seller expectations. And you've got a successful sale. It's happening every day.
Yeah, I love this type of market personally.
Me too.
I mean, I think that, everyone is comfortable with what's happening. Mm-hmm. Rarely are you in a situation where you have a disappointed buyer in this type of market. And to be very candid, if a seller gets what they're looking for, they're going to be typically very happy. So if you set their expectations right in the first place, they're going to be in a good situation. So, when we were in our previous market, it was really, you had to give your firstborn child to be able to buy a house. And, some buyers were not enjoying it nearly as much as they could have. But, I just think we're in a much more neutral market now. I just feel like we're going to continue to be in a neutral market for an extended period of time. And, we're going to see little blips and dips and ups and downs. And, at the end of the day, we're back to normal.
Yeah.
All right. So for those of you out there, apparently this is normal. We've heard it from the guys here. So, it's just a different market, especially for those who have been entering the market in the last couple of years. When interest rates were low, competition was fierce, and you had to compete against 15, 20 other buyers just to get a house. So while prices have gone down, which is an advantage for buyers, interest rates have gone up. But if you do the math, in most cases, you being able to buy a home at a lower price at a little bit of a higher interest rate is actually advantageous. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. And, to that point, I mean, I feel like a lot of people, whether it's buyers or sellers, are getting their information from what they see on mainstream media. And, unfortunately, a lot of times mainstream media is providing information that is historically driven. It's based on data that was given a month ago or a month and a half ago. And, we have our boots on the ground. We're seeing what this is like every single day. We're talking to other agents. We're obviously working with the clients that we have, and we're able to give people that much more of a very specific understanding of what the market's doing right now. So that's my best advice to everyone today is don't rely on mainstream media to get your real estate advice. Right. Speak to the professionals. I mean, give us a call. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. I mean, you have to remember media is there to sell advertising. I mean, that's a cynical thing to say, but in some ways it's true. So, they're not going to report on all the success stories. They're going to report on interest rates, easy numbers that people can fixate on. That doesn't even come close to painting the entire picture. So, right now is a great time to buy, and it is a really good time to sell as well. Both can work, and they are working for sure. So,
and that doesn't mean it's for everyone, right? We've said this on the podcast several other times, but buying a home or selling a home, you really have to unpeel the onion and say, well, why is someone wanting to buy or sell?
Right.
Some people are wanting to buy for investment purposes. Some people are wanting to buy because they want to have a place to live for the next 30, 40 years. And that's awesome. And people selling, I mean, we were just talking about this earlier today, but why do people sell houses? Well, it's because they want to do something else with the resources they have, or, they want to make a change from, maybe they want to upgrade or downgrade or whatever it is. And so we're looking at all of our clients right now and we're saying, okay, well, it's not that there's more of them. It's just that, we feel like more people are, it's just naturally the time that they were looking to do something. So Right. It wasn't that, hey, the market's at a good time to be able to buy or sell. It's just more so life happens and it just makes it so, makes sense for them at that time.
Right. I think, what did I say earlier today that, prices at the grocery store are going up, but people are still buying milk.
It's exactly right.
Just because your financing may be a little bit more on that side, there's a great opportunity out there. And in the long run, it's, easy to argue that, for the buyer, it's going to be a better option to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a market where we're just resetting expectations, and you're resetting expectations for a seller. You might have to wait 3 weeks now to get your home sold. You might have to also get a lower price than you had expected. But it's giving people an opportunity to make those lifestyle changes when otherwise they might not have a place to move. So if you're a seller, a lot of sellers were just keeping their home on the market, or keeping their home off the market because they had no place to go. Now there are specific examples of people making moves in transactions that you otherwise couldn't. I've got a buyer and he's also a seller, and he was okay in his place, but he found a better opportunity in a better neighborhood. He was able to buy that house contingent upon the sale of his current place. That would be unheard of before,
Yeah.
Right? You'd have to get a bridge loan. There'd be a lot of complexity to it. So the good news, he was able to buy that, get into contract on that place without any risk. So it was contingent upon the sale, gave us a little bit of time to put his property in the market. And because we priced it well and he has a cool property and we marketed it well, he was able to sell his place. And here we are in transaction, and he's about to, all in a 5 to 6 week span, move into a better place that he would never have the opportunity to do so in the spring market. So that's one example. You can be a contingent buyer in this market and get into a home that you would not otherwise be able to. And you'd be wondering exactly how you're going to do it. Because first, you'd have to beat 19 other buyers.
Yeah.
So don't you think that's an advantage of this market? There's other people it's an advantage for too. Can you give another example of maybe someone you've worked with where they're buying today when otherwise they wouldn't have bought in the spring?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a couple first-time home buyers the last couple of transactions, and one of my clients, she was going in with her mom to buy her first place, but it was her first transaction because her financing was, wasn't the ultimate most competitive in a crazy 19 offer situation, right? Like, we still got an inspection, we still got a financing contingency. She was able to get in with a pretty low down payment. And it's the perfect timing for her. And she also was able to look at, a fair amount of condos over the course of a couple weeks without feeling like she's losing. I last year there was a lot of feeling that, I got to jump on something now because this place is going to, go up 10% in 2 days or whatever, so just a much more relaxed situation. And that seems to be, kind of a trend.
Yeah, that's fantastic, right? So as opposed to 10% over the list price, now people are getting into places 5 to 10% below the list price.
Yeah.
And that list price is lower than it was
right.
3 months ago. So it's a new market, right? There's that phrase, you buy the house, you marry the house, you date the rate. So suck it up if you can afford to buy right now, just go on a date with the interest rate, it's short term. But stay in that house that you otherwise couldn't have gotten a few months ago. And then you can always refinance the rate in the future. Rates just don't keep going up. Houses may dip in price, but ultimately they go up as well. So rates could go down. There you go. You get the advantage of buying a house at a lower price. And then ultimately you can refinance that rate into a lower payment.
Right.
That's called wealth building. Seattle Living and Wealth Building, in case you didn't know what the podcast is.
Right. What's funny about that is that, that is a conversation I think we have a lot with people frustrated about rates or whatnot. But I'm also finding that a lot of people aren't as concerned about it as I think real estate agents might, be expecting them to be. That, they look at their payment, they talk to a couple of lenders, they look at what they can afford and they go, okay, this works for me. And even when I'm telling them, don't worry, you can refinance down the road, they're like, okay, dude, yeah, I'll look into that later. It's not always, especially for first-time home buyers, I feel like that maybe they weren't looking last year and that's completely irrelevant information to them. And quite frankly, it's pretty irrelevant to anybody. I mean, who cares about talking about a 3% rate if that's not where we're at, but it's not a doomsday situation, as sometimes people think it is.
Well, if people have the goal of buying a house or selling a house, once again, to my point earlier, it doesn't really matter what the timing looks like.
Right.
I mean, if you're looking to become a homeowner for the first time, you got to really unpeel why you're becoming a homeowner.
Yeah.
Is it to make money? Well, that may be a part of it, but at the end of the day, you're buying a house, you're buying a home. And if you really think of it from like a long-term investment perspective, that's the intention of why there's a 30-year rate mortgage or 30-year mortgage. Because, the intention is at the end of 30 years, you don't owe anything on that house. And when you retire, you're mortgage free.
Right.
So, I think that's something that we as real estate agents really need to just make sure we continue to focus on, is not putting everyone inside a box and really understanding why everyone's doing what they're doing. I mean, I've got some clients right now that just the other day got under contract for we'll call it a downsize, and so they have a full single family house, and they decided that they wanted to live a different type of lifestyle, so they wanted to find something that was a little bit smaller, so they're moving into a townhouse. And we're going to be selling their existing house, and they're not going to be able to get as much money as they would have been able to get before for that house. But they also were in a situation where they were able to take advantage of no competition. They were able to find that place that suited their lifestyle where they wanted to be right now. And, at the end of the day, they're going to be thrilled whether or not they're making money or not. At the end of the day, they're living in a house. They're building a lifestyle. And that's really what buying a house is all about, in my opinion, unless you're an investor.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're pointing out to that population who their point is they're trying to improve their lifestyle, where they live. It's better for their personal situation. So, that's fantastic. But as an investor, I'm actually looking for opportunities right now.
Totally.
Because prices are now at a point where, all right, there's some opportunities here in Seattle where there otherwise wouldn't have been, to buy into it, to Airbnb it, or to long-term rent it. Got to do the math to make sure that makes sense. But when you've got some builders who have more inventory than they would care to have, they've got some carrying costs because they borrowed money to pay for the building.
Right.
And now they're getting kind of stuck with this inventory. They're looking to cash out, pay off their loan, use the funds for something else. So a great opportunity if you're thinking of investing. Like, now's the time, and you can negotiate a better price. And we don't have any signs right now that rents are going down.
Right.
Rents continue to go up.
Well, that's based on inflation, right? But
Driven by inflation, driven by demand.
Yeah.
Not enough housing. Not enough housing in Seattle. That's why the apartments that have been built aren't enough to satisfy the number of people who want to live here, who are moving here for work.
Well, and it's funny you say that, Maynard, because if you're an investor who's sitting on cash right now, what are you doing? You should be utilizing that cash, because that cash, the value of that cash is just going through the floor with inflation having gone up as much as it has.
Well, expand on that. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, if you have cash that's just sitting in a bank and everything is costing more and more and more money, let's just say for a round number, you have $100,000. Well, a year later, if everything is 8% more expensive, well, that $100,000 isn't going to be able to buy you as much as you would have otherwise.
Right.
And so, as you move forward, use that cash now, especially in a real estate market like this. If you were going to use $100,000 as a down payment, well, you can take advantage of limited competition and, prices at a point where they've kind of chilled out a little bit. And it's just nothing but opportunity for anyone who has that cash on hand. This is the type of market where I would personally say, yeah, if you can put down a larger down payment onto a house than you otherwise would have, it makes sense. Before, a lot of the conversations I was having with buyers was, well, if you want to kind of put down as little down as you can and take advantage of the financing rates that you were able to get for a home. Now with rates a little bit higher, obviously having more cash is going to be beneficial, but that's all assuming that rates are going to decrease as time goes on. Well, one thing that we've been hearing recently is about these different loan programs that are available, and we're not, let's be real, we're not lenders here, but we certainly understand the mortgage world pretty darn well. And there's this new thing called the 2-1 Buydown Program that some lenders are offering, which looks like an awesome opportunity for a lot of first-time home buyers especially, but people who anticipate those rates decreasing as time goes on. So anyone want to share a little information about that?
Maynard, I think you can take the lead on that.
I'd love to.
You're the finance guy.
I'm the finance guy. I'm the math guy. So let's see if I can get this right. Pressure's on me here. So yeah, it's just one of many loan options out there that allow a buyer with some cash today to get into a lower payment that may better suit their budget. So you temporarily buy down the rate. So instead of a 6.5% fixed interest rate, for example, maybe you're at a 4.5% fixed interest rate. So now your payment is lower by 2% temporarily. This particular program allows you to buy it down 2%, and in the second year it's bought down 1%. So you've got a rate that's artificially lower than what it currently is today if you locked in a fixed rate. So again, keeping your payment lower, but giving you the opportunity to maybe refinance again at a lower rate in the future. So I guess it's just don't get too fearful of the rate. Don't be too fearful of headlines. There's different loan programs out there. Talk to a qualified lender. Talk to a real estate professional, and they'll guide you and help you through this. Just reminds me, like, I was out on the boat for Seafair weekend. Mm-hmm. Amazing time, by the way, as you've already heard. But I ran into a lot of different people, and we just started talking real estate. And I was giving free advice for 30 minutes at a time. There was like a line. Just kidding. There was no line. But that just kind of organically happened. And I think the thing is that these were people I socially knew, and they just kind of found an opportunity because they had a lot of questions on their mind. But through that 30-minute conversation, we were able to get some clarity for them. And you guys can do that anytime. Any of you out there having questions, just talk to a trusted real estate advisor like ourselves, who can just guide you through the process. So for free, no pressure.
Well, and to go back to that 2-1 buy down, the intention of it is that, obviously it helps people who are concerned about monthly payments, and the intention is to refinance after 2 years.
Yeah.
But it's important, once again, it's not for everyone, right? We want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're feeling comfortable about the situation you're entering. You should never get into a loan program where, hey, you don't feel comfortable with what that's going to look like in 2 years if rates don't go down. You need to make sure that you're understanding your situation, where your comfort level is. It would make it a lot easier to buy a house in the short term. But that doesn't mean that rates are 100% going to be lower 2 years from now than they are right now. All projections are telling us that's the case, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the case. So,
yeah, absolutely. So don't get into a transaction that you really can't afford. Like that's it at the end of the day.
Right.
And it takes talking to a qualified real estate professional or mortgage professional to help you through that. Don't believe all the headlines. Don't just use online calculators. So,
That's
man,
a big
tips are just flowing out of my mouth right now.
Yeah,
so.
it's like you're still on the boat.
It is.
That actually happened to me on the boat too. And, I will disclose that all of my real estate advice came before, a beverage was consumed. So, it was in the morning and I gave a nice little tutorial. But it's interesting though. I mean, I met a bunch of people that, I'd never met before. And as soon as they asked me what I did, I said, I'm a real estate agent. And they go, oh, talk to me about the market. What's going on?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interest just in general, I think, because real estate is a reflection of our economy in some ways. So, it's fun to talk about it with people. And usually they're pretty surprised at what you can provide.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, between the three of us, we've gone through 500, 600, 700 transactions. So, that's a lot of case studies.
Yeah, and I think, to your point, Michael, I think a lot of people have this idea that, hey, there's a doomsday scenario or whatever it may be. And it's because they're hearing things from, mainstream media or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And they're not relying on the experts, the professionals, to be able to give them the insight that's needed. So.
Yeah, they definitely had the expectation it's going to be like, oh, man, it is tough out there, or something, negative, but not the case.
Well, and there's a reason why people are continuing to buy and sell houses every day. It's not because of the market. It's just because it's life. And people, they need to figure out what makes the most sense for themselves as individuals. And it's helping a lot of people right now. So
Yeah. And I think it's okay to talk about these headlines, right? Because there are a lot of things that are happening right now that might indicate some concerns from people. There are a lot of transactions that aren't going through for various reasons. Some buyers are canceling due to their financing failing. Prices have gone down. Will they continue to go down? Why don't we address that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, the question about prices going down, because, when the market first started to shift, there was a lot of people saying prices aren't going down, prices aren't going down. Well, I think there's enough data out there to show, and just from experience to see that, yes, these houses are selling for less than they might have, a year ago. So does that mean the prices are going down overall? Yes, I would say so. There it is. I said it. So,
And to clarify, I wouldn't say a year ago. I would say they're less than maybe they were 3 or 4 months ago. But if you go year over year, like let's say August versus August, you're still looking at an appreciation for prices from last year. But I think when you're talking like, let's say March to now, maybe not quite as much.
Well, this is a good debate, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at certain properties. I think I can agree with you on some of that, but I think, I did a lot of work in the pre-sale space last year. Those places were going for well above ask, on average, at least 15 to 20%. Some of them were escalating, we're talking to homes listed at $1 million, some of them selling at 1.4 with 20 offers. Now that same development has 6 or 7 homes that have been sitting there for 30 days. And those homes aren't going to sell for those prices. The exact same model. So it's a perfect comp. Literally 1 year ago, same house offered, same location, it's selling for less. So I was going to say something else, but point being is that with prices, we see it in a couple different ways, closing prices, and then we also see list prices. And I think the list prices that we're seeing a lot of listings having price reductions is not 100% because of a weaker market, I think it also is because of seller expectations are still catching up to where the market's at. Does that make sense?
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it does make sense. And again, it's just the fact that when you had such little inventory and many buyers, the escalations on those prices that were a few months ago were going up 10, 15, 20%. And it was truly unpredictable. So even a seller pricing today isn't quite sure exactly what's going to sell. It's not just going, but it's not going to go up 10%, 15, 20%.
Right.
So if they price too high, they have to adjust now. Oh, we're also in the slowest time of year in Seattle, August. You know, we've had people on vacation. Like the amount of traffic and activity out there in the market is a little light. So if you're a buyer, like I have one strong recommendation and you're pre-approved and you're ready, don't wait. If you're ready and you see something that's affordable right now, take the opportunity to negotiate. Like in the past, past years, we always see like people become more responsible, start to deal with those things they wanted to take a break from when it comes September. School year starts, summer vacation is over for kids, summer vacation is over for adults. Time to get back to business. So you may not have the same opportunities that you're seeing today. So if you got time to, you know, step off the paddleboard or take a break from your vacation or take a break from your hikes, there could be some opportunities out there.
Yeah, you won't. You won't. I mean, there's going to be more activity. It's naturally going to happen. And I think, you know, to dive into what you were saying earlier was seller expectations are now becoming more normal. You know, they're not expecting the multiple offer situations. They are, you know, understanding of the fact that, hey, we are in a different and a new market now.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's no different than for buyers. I mean, buyers, you know, the best time to buy a house, I keep saying this, and maybe it's not entirely true because we have seen prices decrease a little bit, but the best time to buy a house was yesterday. I mean, there's no point in really waiting if you're looking to buy a home. At the end of the day, you got to get something, and, you know, timing it is only going to really be beneficial if you're planning to be an investor.
Yeah, let's give some specific tips. So, like, what are the top 3 things? If you're a buyer today in the marketplace, what are the top 3 like reasons to go and buy a house right now?
Well, number one, and I think this is absolutely number one, everyone was complaining about the fact that there was too much competition. You know, they had to give their firstborn child to be able to buy a house. They weren't protected because they had to waive all their contingencies, and you know, but now you have the pick of the litter. You can really almost do whatever you want as a buyer right now. And you can, you know, negotiate with the seller. You can actually dictate some of the terms that are out there. In many respects, you can feel very confident with the home that you're buying because you're not going to simply jump into a situation because you're not because you're being pressured into it. I mean, I hope none of our clients were feeling pressured into it before, but at the same time, they probably weren't feeling quite as comfortable as you would have in this market right now. So that's, I think, number one for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I think my 3 would be, number 1 is always, do you like it? So right now we've got more options for you. You know, there's more inventory. So it's a great time to kind of, you know, pick and choose. As long as you like it, like, yeah, we've got different loan products that could work for you if you're concerned about the rate. You're also going to be buying at a lower price, you know. And number 3, those, whatever your interest rate concerns are, you know, they are projected to go down. Like you said, Maynard, there's going to be a lot more activity. You know, people get more focused, you know, towards the end of the year, and this window is going to change. And I can already start to feel that. Just the fact that, you know, the initial shock is now over. People are starting to get settled back into the market, and people are coming back into the market because they're understanding these concepts that we're talking about. You know, traffic is gonna pick up for sure, and then some of those opportunities won't be there, and you're going to be seeing inventory go back down a little bit again.
Yeah, love it. I mean, those are great reasons, and of course, right? Can you afford it? Is it within your budget? And then, do you intend to stay there for a long period of time? And if you do, then you can forget about this volatility that you might expect over here over the next year, whether it's the stock market, inflation, you know, even some movement in prices overall, on average, most people are projecting right now over the next year prices to stay flat or go up. Right. So not a lot of appreciation, but not a lot predicting depreciation. So it's a pretty safe time to buy.
Yeah, I actually had this conversation with someone this morning about the fact that, in our old market, people would go and not necessarily feel super comfortable with the place that they were buying, but they knew that if they bought something and then a year later prices would have increased. So therefore, you would have been able to see a return and be able to sell the property if it wasn't the right property for you. But nowadays, I feel like a lot of people who are moving into Seattle are using renting in the short term to really understand the area, understand the market, and feel more comfortable with what they're looking to do, because we're not going to project to see price appreciation in the same way that we were seeing before. So if you bought a house now and you didn't like the house, you kind of had to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 years now to be able to potentially see the break-even point. Whereas before, we were seeing appreciations at a point where it was, so rapid that you could buy a house and sell it a year or two later and, know that you covered your nut. So.
Yeah. Let's play both sides of the coin too. So here we're giving you all these great reasons to buy because we're realtors and we always say it's a great time to buy. All right, let's be real. We don't always say it's a great time to buy, but let's if you're a buyer right now, someone considering buying, what are the 3 to 5 reasons you shouldn't buy right now?
I would say that right now it's not a great market for somebody that maybe has some credit issues or has, not a large down payment. Those things are going to exponentially make whatever this higher cost market is as far as lending goes more significant for you. So that may not be a good option for you to do that right now. The other thing is what you said, JD, is that for somebody that says, hey, I just moved to Seattle, but I've got a year contract here at a tech company, whatever, and I don't know if I'm going to be here in a year, but I want to buy. I don't want to rent because rents are going up, I heard. Well, there is a risk there, right? After you pay, commissions and fees and excise tax and whatever, it costs money to sell your house. So you want to take that into consideration if you're going to live here short term. Yes, rents are going up as well, but you can kind of work out the break-even point on that too. So those are two that come to mind of it may not make sense for you right now.
Yeah, I think also important for people who aren't feeling very confident with their employment situation. Especially with the fact that all indications are telling us that we're probably going to be entering a recession here, or if we're not already in one. And in that circumstance, people do lose their jobs. And if you feel like that may be a concern for you, it might not be the best time to buy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally agree with all those. I think number 4 is, just don't rush. If you feel like you've got a push timeline, maybe your lease is going to end and you want to jump into something before you decide to renew, may not be the best time. I think you just never want to make a rush decision. So that may not be the best scenario for you. Number 5, I think this is again a kind of a reason to buy, but like things to watch out for as a buyer, just be careful of buying maybe something in a location that's less than ideal, super busy street, like things that are less desirable. And if there does come a time when you want to sell it, when there's more inventory on the market, it's going to be harder to sell.
Yeah.
It's actually, that brings up a good point though, Maynard, because, the places that are the most compelling places are still selling quickly. We're seeing, sometimes multiple offer situations. I mean, this guy just had a multiple offer situation in a place the other day.
The cowboy of Northgate.
Exactly. But
yeah.
So,
this guy meaning representing a seller.
Correct.
Yeah, he represented a client.
Correct. Mm-hmm. He was the listing agent for a property. Okay. And they made a strategic decision in how they wanted to list the property, and they were able to get a multiple offer situation because the place was compelling. There weren't many downsides to the place. It had a lot of appeal, great location, all these different things. And so therefore that place sold quickly. And we still see that. So, you know, it's important for everyone to understand that not all places are sitting there for a really long period of time. And the majority of the inventory that we're seeing on the market is typically going to be the less compelling stuff. The compelling stuff is going to sell that first week or so.
Yeah.
If priced well.
If priced well, exactly. If not priced well, I mean, that's the big difference is, you know, our old market, if places were just priced and, you know, it didn't really matter if it was compelling or not. It was going to see multiple offers and it was going to sell. Now in this market, in our new market, we're going back to the world of, you know, something has to be really priced well and put together in a way that makes it super compelling for a buyer to feel like they want to buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. You're talking about sellers now. We kind of shifted there a little bit, which is perfect segue to talk about if you're a person or, you know, if you're interested in selling right now in this market, what should be your new expectations? What are the things that they should expect and need to actually do, maybe even more importantly, than they used to in the prior market?
I mean, I think that with buyers having more kind of leverage, you know, just overall, that if you're a seller, you need to make that place, you know, unless it's like a flip or something, an investor opportunity. But if you're selling to somebody who's looking for it for their primary home, it needs to be pretty turnkey. You know, I think you got to go the extra mile as a seller to really dial in your listing before coming on the market, because you are dealing with buyers that are more choosy. So knowing that, you can get prepared, talk to a real estate agent, give you advice on what you could do, you know, weigh out the cost benefits of putting some money into your house before selling it, number one. And then also understand that if it takes, like you said, a month to sell your property, that's not a bad deal. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong. It doesn't mean that you made a mistake. You know, it's just, that's where we're at. And it takes some getting used to, but as long as they understand that, you know, you don't need to panic on day 6 if your place hasn't sold, you know, that's normal. You know, what we were seeing before wasn't, you know, it's just not relevant anymore. So
not all homes are awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think
there's a lot of bad homes out there. I'll be candid. But the point is that even though you have a house that's not necessarily as compelling or as appealing to the majority, that doesn't mean it can't sell. You just have to be very real about what the situation looks like.
Right. And I mean, like, uniqueness too obviously matters, right? So if you've got a great house and you've dialed it in like I suggested, but it's a, you know, split level home and there's 25 of them in that neighborhood for sale, well, you know, even though you've done a great job with your house, it's not specifically unique. So it may take a little bit longer, you know, and that's okay.
Well, and if you're a seller and you have things in your mind that you don't like about your own house, I guarantee you in this market, buyers will be seeing the exact same things and not wanting to buy your home because of it.
What do you think, Maynard? You've got, what, 9 listings right now or something? So
maybe something like that. Yeah. Fewer pending, fewer taking a little bit longer.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the conversations I'm having with sellers are similar to what you guys, right? To summarize, that you got to come on, you know, at a reasonable, fair price. It can't be what you saw 30 days ago even, you know, because 30 days ago, for a home that sold 30 days ago, it actually went into contract 60 days ago. That was a way different market 2 months earlier. So that's one thing. 2, it might take some time. You know, buyers are patient. They're on vacation. So if you're getting 4 to 5, 6 showings a week, that's actually not unusual. You know, so that's that balance of between patient and just kind of waiting for the market, or also just pricing like more lower than you would otherwise like to. Yeah, and being okay with it and understanding. You know, I think the thing to warn is always the thing to warn about, but it was, you could get away with potentially pricing a little high in the prior market. In this market, if you overprice, what happens is people see it's not sold, so the next seller who comes on the market prices way lower than you. And then if that one doesn't sell, then the next person who comes on the market prices lower than you. And so you're just constantly playing catch up to the market. Now, again, we think it's going to flatten. We got to make some predictions here. I'm pretty confident prices are flattening. People are getting used to this market. I don't see further price reductions. People are going to go, all right, September's here. Time to get busy. Time to get in that house I want. My job's good. I can afford it. Let's do it. So there you go. And marketing matters. You got to present your property to get people drawn to the property. You can't get away with crappy marketing, weak pictures,
iPhone photos.
Yeah,
iPhone photos or something.
Dishes in the sink.
Whatever it may be. Yeah.
Well,
that doesn't work. Like, regardless, buyers like HGTV homes, whether it's reality or not.
Yeah.
They want to see a home and go to a home that hits them emotionally.
Yeah. And from a seller's perspective, to your point, Maynard, I feel like a lot of people in the past have always simply looked at what properties had done in the past. And I'm now seeing that kind of normalize a little bit, where people are now saying, well, instead of looking at previous stuff, it's no different than what I was talking about with mainstream media earlier on. When you're talking about, what's happening right now, you have to look at what your competition is right now to be able to price a home. Because if you want to sell something, and down the street, the house is priced at X and you price higher than that, well, you have to have very tangible reasons why your house is worth more than that property, or else there's no chance it's going to sell because they have another option down the street. So it doesn't really matter what your neighbor's house sold for 6 months ago, because, it's in the past. What's happening right now is going to be more important as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think too, it's part of the same setting the expectations, which, the way that we're framing it is maybe negative, that it's saying, oh, well, seller, don't get your hopes up. It's not going to be the same as it was 6 months ago. Well, that's part of it. But I think the other part of it is, what are the needs of the seller? Do they need that sold in a month? Can they wait 3 months? What is their temperament? Are they okay? Can they sleep at night with their home not being sold and they understand? Do they have a number in mind that they're just going to wait and stick it out for that price? Maybe as the fall comes around, there's some more buyers that become interested. I talked to a guy the other day that he's got a listing that they're just going to sit and wait. And he's confident that he can get his number maybe in 2 to 3 months is what he said. So that seller has time in the world and doesn't need, the money obviously right away to get it sold. Other people, they've got plans. They need to sell this to buy something else, or they already bought something else. We were talking about before, market before, there were families that would move into an Airbnb while they go shop, for houses. So, that Airbnb gets expensive and they've got to buy. Well, it's just different. So sellers are it all depends on what their goal is. And then from there we can take that and say, okay, based on that, this is where we need to be.
Yeah, well, and another example, to go back to what you were describing earlier with the contingent offers, which are becoming much, much, much more prevalent now. But if you have a contingent offer, you've made an offer contingent on the sale of your house, well, you better have very realistic expectations of what your house should be selling for with a contingent offer.
And an amazing real estate agent.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
well.
Yeah, exactly. But,
That's only half of that story too.
That's half. Yeah. There's many more layers. So, yeah.
contingent on contingent on contingent on contingent.
Yeah. It can happen. One of my prouder moments for sure. Almost a miracle worker for that one. But no, I mean, it's situational, right? It wouldn't work for everything. Again,
and not for everyone as well.
Right, exactly. It's just a market that requires a different lens, a different analysis, one that is very current, and then one that helps people just understand, the different layers to whatever is going on in their personal life. Like, had a very recent successful transaction. This can be common for many people out there where, they have a reason to move, and this buyer happens to be moving up. So, like, if you think about this, right, here's a buyer who's buying something that is $3.3 million. I'm pretty certain that would have went for 3.8. Right, so there's $500,000. Would have went through 3.8, possibly even 4 3 months ago. They've got another home that probably would have been worth like 1.6. Maybe now it's worth 1.4. So they're saving $500,000 on their purchase, losing $200,000 on their sale. That's a net gain of $300,000 for a move-up buyer. So again, really awesome opportunities to take advantage of this market. So we'll close on that one. You know, they had the financial situation to be able to buy first, then sell. So then they move into the house without a lot of stress. And then they take the time to get theirs on the market so we can maximize the sales price at that time, you know, which could be about 60 days from now.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, when we're talking about move up buyers, you know, you can do that specifically in the same area where before a lot of times people, you know, if they upgraded their house, meaning they moved into a bigger or nicer place, you know, they might sell their house in Seattle, but now they've got if they need to buy in Seattle, well, the price is still high, right? So now we're seeing that opportunity that you can sell your Seattle house and still buy a Seattle house and upgrade and still save some money, like you said. You don't have to move out to, you know, Vancouver, Washington or something like that. Save some money.
One thing that just popped into my head right now is, you know, you were asking earlier about why is it a good time? Why is it not a good time to buy a home?
Yeah.
Well, I think one reason why it's not a good time to sell a home is simply because mortgage rates were very, very low for a long period of time. And many people had refinanced, even if they'd owned for the last 10, 15 years. And the hard part is that if you are going and trying to make an upgrade or a downgrade on what you have existing, you have to feel really confident about what that move looks like. Because if you were at a 3% interest rate and you were able to, you know, refinance at that point, and now all of a sudden you're in a 5% interest rate or 5.5%, I mean, that's a pretty big hit. So I think that's one thing that a lot of sellers are thinking about right now is, you know, what am I going to do if I decide to sell? I mean, I'm going to be paying more money for something different. It really better be important for me.
Yeah, and that may not be right for them.
Correct.
You know? Again, it's all situational because there's a lot of people who are like, well, I can afford the payment today. My stock portfolio went up quite a bit. Might have gone down in the last few months or so, but so many different reasons. But yeah, absolutely. Another reason why you just want to stay put. You're fine with the house. You have a super low interest. Take advantage of that lower cost.
And in 30 years, you can retire mortgage free.
Or sooner.
Or sooner, exactly.
Can always pay more.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually, you know, to just bring up another point about, you know, trying to reduce a payment and really, you know, trying to set yourself up for success is, especially from the wealth building side of things, 15-year mortgages are way better than 30-year mortgages in terms of not only the rate that you can get, but yes, it's going to cost you more monthly. But if you can afford it monthly, take advantage of a 15-year rate while you can.
Yeah, the rate's lower, payment's higher, but if you can do it.
Absolutely. When would you not use that? Like, let's say somebody's say, well, I'm only going to live in my place for 5 years. Would that still make sense?
I'd have to crunch the numbers, but I mean, you know, I think in that circumstance, there's probably even other options that you'd want to look at, like adjustable rate mortgages. Mm-hmm. If you're only going to live in something for a couple of years, you know, take advantage of a rate that's a little bit, like quite a bit lower. I really don't know the answer to that.
Neither do I. That's why I asked.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, that's the thing. Those are questions that we can get asked, and we don't necessarily know everything.
We can find out.
But we can find out. And we can, you know, that's a good one for us to crunch some numbers on and see what would make sense. Do you know the answer?
Yes, it depends.
It depends. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, but you have to understand everyone's situation, everyone's scenario. So
yeah, definitely. What else is going on? What do we have coming up that you guys are looking forward to? Anything cool that, just say you don't know the area, you know, fall is coming up. What do you love about Seattle? What do you love about maybe some things that are happening in certain neighborhoods that are pretty cool, pretty appealing?
So I live in Ballard. Ballard has an awesome farmer's market every weekend. They also had a seafood festival, which is something where there's like live music and there's food trucks, which Seattle and Portland are really known for like a food truck scene. So there's all sorts of events like that out just in little neighborhoods. You know, it's really fun. Lots of family friendly too. But it's stuff like that that's very simple, affordable, you know, doesn't take a lot of planning, and you can just jump out and enjoy your community.
Yeah. And actually my community, I live in Kenmore, and my community recently started up a farmer's market themselves as well. And it's on Wednesdays. I think it's through the summer, through the end of August now. But I've actually never been, but my family's been a couple times, and they have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, super cool. I mean, the local farmers markets are awesome. I believe there are 23 in Seattle.
Yeah, you're probably
in
right.
the different neighborhoods. Yeah, different days as well, so you can go check them out.
Totally.
A lot of street fairs. That's cool.
I mean, I think the thing that we all love the most about Seattle is, in the summertime especially, is just, being able to get outside and enjoy the outdoors. And, that continues into the fall as well. Obviously there's a point where it does get a little more gray and a little bit less desirable to be outside, but that goes well into September and into October before we get to that point. So there's lots to look forward to.
Yeah, the gray though is like, you get used to it. That's for complaining about. That's for rookies. I feel like that's the watering, our beautiful landscape, so that way we can have these awesome summers with a bunch of green space.
Do you know what I look forward to this year?
What's that?
Another great Seattle Kraken season.
Oh, yeah.
Where the Seattle Kraken actually win more games than they won last year. And maybe they give it the playoffs a run this year. As a Canadian, I mean...
I feel like I need to manage your expectations on that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a seller and you just got to work with me on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Lots of different things to look forward to. We got the Mariners in a playoff run. That's super cool. Football season.
We're not going to talk
Who knows
about
what's
the
going to
Seahawks.
happen about the Seahawks or the Huskies. But yeah, it's a fun time. So
then there's the holidays and on you go.
That's going to come up quick.
Yep.
yeah. All right. Well, it was fun chatting, guys. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Good to share what's going on.
Lots of fun.
Yeah. Any last minute points to share or to close us out?
I would just say, you don't have to figure this out by yourself. We can figure it out with you. So just talk to somebody. Hopefully it's us, but just talk to a real estate agent. And, whether you're thinking about now, 6 months, a year, 2 years, or if you're just kind of curious, talk to a real estate agent. They'll be more than happy to help.
Well said.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just not like super cool guys on video. We're real people. Come talk to us. Happy to chat real estate anytime. So hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hope you got a lot out of it. Looking forward to chatting you on the next time. Okay. Take care.